Good evening, and a warm welcome to all. I'm Ridul Mishra from Care Ratings. Welcome you to our today's webinar on Does Steel Recovery Potent Well for Raw Material? And we sincerely appreciate your time in joining us for this webinar. Please be informed we'll be having a Q&A session no sooner the presentation and discussion ends. In case of any queries, you're please requested to key in your questions in the slot provided. Now, may I request Mr. Milind Gadkari, who is the Senior Director at Care Ratings, to begin the proceedings, please?
Thank you, Mridul. Good afternoon to everybody. Iron ore and coking coal are the two key raw materials used in the steel production. In the recent times, the prices of both these commodities have moved in totally opposite directions. While global iron ore prices have soared to 7-year highs amid rising Chinese demand, supply constraints from Brazil, and sentimental impact of rising geopolitical tensions between China and Australia. On the other hand, the coking coal prices have remained soft due to muted demand from China, Korea, and Japan, and firm supply conditions from Australia. The restrictions imposed by China on imports from Australia and China's preference to meet its demand from domestically produced coking coal has created oversupply for Australian coking coal, thereby keeping the prices in check. On the domestic front, the Indian iron ore industry has seen a paradigm shift post mine auctions in Odisha in late FY20. The mines which were previously operated by merchant miners have majorly been backed by integrated steel players by committing substantially premiums to ensure long-term raw material security. As a result, the supply of ore has become more concentrated, leading to change in demand-supply dynamics. The supply challenges that emerged due to the COVID-19 pandemic and delay in opening up of recently auctioned iron ore mines impacted the iron ore's availability and prices in 2020, which has a bearing on the operations of steel companies. However, sharp increase in steel prices has compensated for the impact of higher iron ore prices, although lower availability of iron ore has impacted utilization rates of sponge iron manufacturers. In our today's webinar, we will take a look at overview of global and Indian iron ore market, Odisha iron ore mines auctions and present status of auction mines, movement in prices of raw materials and its impact on profitability of steel companies, outlook for iron ore and coking coal prices. Before we start our presentation, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. V.R. Sharma, Managing Director of Jindal Steel and Power Limited. His renowned name in the industry with over 36 years of experience while leading multi-locational steel, power, cement, and mining operations. I now request Rashmi to start the presentation.
Thank you, sir. We will begin with the raw material iron ore first. Iron ore and metallurgical coal or coking coal are the two main ingredients for steel making via the basic oxygen blast furnace route. Typically, it takes 1.6 tons of iron ore and around 0.5 tons of coking coal to produce a ton of pig iron, which is a solidified form of hot metal that comes out of a blast furnace, which is the main component in the manufacture of steel. According to World Steel Association, it is estimated that the global steel industry used about 2 billion tons of iron ore, 1 billion ton of metallurgical coal, and 575 tons of recycled steel to produce about 1.7 billion tons of crude steel in 2018. According to US Geological Survey, world crude iron ore reserves are estimated to be around 170 billion tons as on 2019, and the iron content in those reserves is estimated to be around 81 billion tons. About 50 countries in the world mine iron ore. The country that has the largest reserves is Australia, with 48 billion tons of crude ore reserve, having 23 billion tons of iron content. Brazil is at the second position with 29 billion tons of ore reserves with 15 billion metric tons of iron content. Together, Australia, Brazil, Russia, China, Canada, and India account for around 79% of the world's total reserves. Next slide. Global iron ore production over the last 5 years, from 2015 to 2019, grew at a CAGR of 2.3%, which is slightly less as compared to the global crude steel production, which grew at a CAGR of 3.6% during the same period. It is quite common to see few countries dominating the global commodities market. Like the OPEC countries together with Russia and US dominate the oil market. Similarly, iron ore is no exception, and a few countries dominate global iron supply and demand. Australia is the largest iron ore producing country in the world, accounting for 37% of the world's total production, followed by Brazil, which account for another 19% of the total production. Together, these two countries dominate the world's supply of iron ore, as they are also the largest exporters of iron ore in the world. Whereas the next three countries, that is China, India, Russia, do not have a control over the supply as much, because the iron ore that is produced by these countries are consumed by their large domestic steel market, and their export share is minuscule in comparison. Brazilian mining giant Vale, which is also the world's largest iron ore mining company, alone produced 302 million tons of iron ore out of the 480 million tons produced by Brazil. That would be a share of 63% in total Brazil's iron ore production. Diversified Anglo-Australian company Rio Tinto has been the second largest producer since 2016, when it overtook BHP and regained its traditional second rank. All of Rio Tinto BHP mines are located in Australia, and in 2019, these big three companies together controlled 33% of the total iron ore production. Next slide. After a dip in 2015, global iron ore consumption has recovered from 2016 onwards, supported by increase in crude steel production. China is the largest consumer of iron ore, as it alone accounts for 56% of total consumption. India is the second largest consumer, followed by Japan, South Korea, and Brazil. Almost 98% of total iron ore produced. No, go to the previous slide. Yeah. Almost 98% of total iron ore that is produced is consumed by steel sector, and therefore top iron ore producing countries are also top producers of crude steel, except for USA, which relies mostly on recycled steel to produce steel. Almost two-thirds of steel produced by US is through the EAF route. Next slide. Exporters, as we saw earlier, the top producers of iron ore were Australia, Brazil, China, India, and Russia. China, India, and Russia mostly produce to consume domestically, whereas Australia and Brazil mainly produce to export iron ore to other consuming countries such as China. China is the largest importer of iron ore, and it alone purchases nearly two-thirds of the seaborne iron ore supply, mostly from Australia and Brazil. Despite being the third largest iron ore producer, China's import dependency is around 82%. This is due to the country's huge appetite to consume, as it produces more than half of the world's total crude steel. Japan was the second largest importer in 2019, purchasing 7.9% of global trade, followed by South Korea. Together, China, Japan, South Korea, Germany, Netherlands accounted for 86% of total imports in 2019, and the top 5 exporting countries that you see on the slide accounted for 87% of total exports in 2019. Coming to India, next slide. Among the larger producing countries, India is the fourth largest iron ore producer in the world. India consumes around 80-85% of the total production, and the balance is exported. However, the production and consequently the export share has seen huge fluctuations over the last decade due to government and judicial crackdown on illegal operation and imposition of duties on export from time to time to keep inflation and cost under control. While India's crude steel production has grown from 58 million tons in FY9 to over 109 million tons in FY20, production of iron ore has been inconsistent, hitting a high of 219 million tons in FY10 to a low of 129 million tons in FY15. This is because of mining ban imposed in several states like Odisha, Goa, Karnataka over the past decade, which has hampered production. Besides, export duty on iron ore has also been raised several times to contain exports and meet the demand of domestic steel industry. Goa was the largest iron ore exporting state in India and did largely export iron ore to China. Mining ban in Goa led to a sharp drop in export of iron ore from India. However, ban in Goa did not much affect the domestic steel industry as the state largely exports iron ore. But the ban on iron ore mining in the state of Karnataka, Odisha created supply shortage in the domestic market and steel companies had to import iron ore. As a result, in FY15, iron ore imports hit an all-time high of 12 million tons as production in India hit a decade low of 159 million tons. In FY18 and 19, production remained constant. However, in FY20, it is estimated that production have touched the highest level of 247 million tons. This is because leases of 24 iron ore mines were due to expire in March 2020, and therefore miners have ramped up operations of their mine, which have now been auctioned. Exports of iron ore from India also shot up in FY20 because of global supply shortage. A dam burst in Wales and a cyclone in Australia bolstered demand for Indian iron ore during the year. Besides, falling steel prices could have also prompted companies to purchase lower grade Indian iron ore to keep their cost under control. Next slide, Ajay. Among the states, Odisha is the largest iron ore producing state in India, alone accounting for 55% of total production. And Chhattisgarh was at the second place with production of 34.9 million tons, which is around 16.9% of total. Karnataka, sorry, I'm just sorry. Karnataka, with production of 29.7 million tons, had 14.4% share. Jharkhand had 11%, around 11% share in the country's total production. The remaining 5.2 million tons, that is around 2.5%, was reported from Andhra Pradesh, Goa, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Rajasthan, and Telangana. Over the past decade, there has been a huge change in the share of states that produces iron ore, while Odisha, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand have seen their share increasing. Share of Goa and Karnataka, which were once major iron ore producer, has substantially reduced. This is following the Apex Court order to ban mining activities in Goa and imposition of production limit on 37 iron ore mines in Karnataka in certain districts. Iron ore mining in Karnataka is also capped at 35 MTPA, and production can only be e-auctioned to steel companies within the state. The Karnataka government there is some noise.
No, you can carry on, Rashmi. We are hearing okay, no issues.
Okay, yeah. The Karnataka government in July 2010 had imposed a blanket ban on export of iron ore from Karnataka, which had subsequently been upheld by the Supreme Court in 2011. Due to the ban, iron ore mined from Karnataka cannot be sold to other states or exported. However, there is no restriction on import of iron ore by steel companies in Karnataka. Next slide. Almost 86% of total exports from India are to China. Import of iron ore in 2000 FY20 fell sharply due to ample availability basically in the domestic market, whereas exports grew last year. This was due to a sharp rise in international iron ore prices due to global supply shortage and higher demand from China, as domestic demand from steel sector remained weak due to COVID-related lockdown in Q1 FY20. And lockdown measures, miners exported iron ore and pellet to benefit from higher international prices. Next slide. Benchmark Australian iron ore prices have risen from an average 84 USD per ton in April to USD 124 per ton in November, a level last seen in 2014. This was fueled by strong Chinese demand and supply disruption from Brazil. Higher realization prompted Indian miners to export iron ore. Exports, however, have moderated in Q2 with increase in demand from the domestic steel sector and rise in domestic prices due to supply crunch in the domestic market due to non-operation of 14 iron ore mines in Odisha. The prices have further risen to USD 170 per ton in December and are at striking distance from the decade high of 193 per ton seen in 2011. We expect iron ore prices to remain at elevated level in the medium term as against the earlier estimate of prices retracing to lower levels on the back of ramp up of production by miners in Brazil and Australia. This is consequent to the world's biggest miner whale in Brazil lowering the production forecast for second time in 2020, citing heavy rains and delay in obtaining regional licenses to start operations. This would widen the deficit of iron ore in the global market in 2020 and keep prices at elevated level as demand for the steel making ingredient remains intact. On the domestic front, a faster ramp up from mines auctioned in February will remain critical to meet the ever increasing demand for iron ore, which has led to surge in prices. Government stands on steel industry's demand to ban export of iron ore, a move being strictly opposed by the miners, shall also remain key monitorable. After the amendment of the MMDR Act, 24 iron ore mines with estimated reserves of around 640 million ton of iron ore have been auctioned in the past 3 years up to November 2019. Of these, 18 in Karnataka with reserves of more than 330 million tons of iron ore have already been auctioned, and 30 iron ore mines accounting for almost 30% of India's mine output expired in March 2020, and about 55% of these mines are in Odisha. Odisha successfully auctioned the mines, 19 operating mines in February, which belong to merchant miners. Auction saw significant interest from large players besides merchant miners. The winning bid premium surged from 91% to 154%. 5 mines were kept for captive use while 14 were in open category. Captive mines accounted for 30% of total auctionable reserves of 1788 million tons. A small change in the auction rule that made a big difference was that while for captive mines, only end users were allowed to bid for the mines, in open category, both captive and merchant miners were permitted to place bids. Consequently, 81% of mineable reserves were backed by captive users, marking a significant change in ownership as pure play miners who have historically owned mines in the state were outbid. Next slide. List of mines auctioned according to their owners, reserves, their EC capacity, their production in FY20, the premium paid, and their current status is given in the table that you can see. And as can be seen from the table, mines having higher iron ore reserves were backed by the large integrated steel producers by paying substantially high premiums. JSW alone has backed 4 iron ore mines with 65% of total auctionable reserve. JSW secured 4 iron ore mines with iron ore reserves linkages of more than 1100 million tons. ArcelorMittal won the Thakurani mine at a premium of 107%. JSPL bagged the Gwali mine at a premium of 144%. Slide 6. Next slide. The 19 mines that were auctioned produced 71 million tons out of the 145 million tons iron ore by Odisha state in 2019, accounting for 25% of total. However, as on today, only 14 of the 19 mines that were auctioned in February have not reported production. They have reported delay in restart of operation. Miners have cited delay in getting statutory clearances and completion of paperwork to start operation in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. In FY20, India is estimated to have produced around 247 million tons of iron ore, of which more than two-thirds was by merchant miners and the rest was by captive steel makers. Odisha alone produced 145 million tons, or more than half of India's total production. However, in the present year, during Jan to November 2019, Odisha's production is expected to have fallen by 21%. And for the whole year, therefore, we expect iron ore production to be lower by around 20% to 200 million tons from 247 produced in a year earlier. This would be mainly due to delay in operationalization of auction mines and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the mining operation. The next part would be coking coal, which my colleague Ajay will take you through.
Thank you, Rashmi. Coking coal is the second most important input in the manufacturing of steel. If we manufacture steel from the blast furnace route, and depending upon the prevalent prices of iron ore and coking coal, it can be the largest cost component in the steel making. Typically, to produce 1 ton of steel, mills require around 0.75 to 0.8 tons of coking coal, assuming a 70% yield from coking coal to coke, and a coke rate of around 500 to 550 kg per ton per kg. So almost 70% of the steel produced globally relies on coking coal, while the remaining is produced by recycling the scrap or the sponge iron. If we see from the peak of 2013, the global consumption of coking coal has been falling. It fell in 2014, 15, and further in 16 by 1% each in 2014-15, and a more sharper fall of 6.5% in 2016. However, it has stabilized after that, and it fell, but it again fell in 2017, and it increased in 2018 by 0.8%. The increase in global coking coal production had partly been driven by the growth in production intended for export by Australia, which is the world's second largest producer of coking coal and the largest exporter by a wide margin. So, as I mentioned, China is the largest producer of coking coal. If we see, coal is the most uniformly distributed fossil fuel in the world, but it is not so with the coking coal. Coking coal is mainly concentrated in China, Australia, Russia, Canada, USA, and Mozambique to some extent. China has always been the largest producer of coking coal in the world, and its share has increased in the global coking coal production from 26% in 2000 over the last 2 decades to 56% in 2019. Australia is the second largest producer and also the largest exporter of the material, because Australia's domestic consumption is very low. So a large part of their production is exported to the coking coal consuming countries. Most major coking coal consuming countries are also the coal producers. However, there are certain exceptions like China, like Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, which doesn't have domestic coal reserves, and thereby they rely on the imports. In case of India too, we have huge reserves of steam coal, but we have limited resources with respect to the coking coal, and the coking coal availability in India is also very low quality. 5 countries dominate the coking coal imports, which are China, India, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. So China is also the large producer as well as a importer of the coking coal. Together, these 5 countries account for 84% of the total coal imports. The surge in China's and India's imports has changed the hierarchy of importers. Earlier, the market was dominated by Japan, but from 2011, it is being dominated by China. India's total coal reserves are around 140 billion tons. Of these resources, share of prime coking coal is only 5 billion tons, and the proven reserves of coking coal around 4.6 billion tons. India's coking coal reserves have been stagnant over the years. The vulnerability of the Indian steel sector springs from the low availability of domestic coal and higher reliance on the imported coking coal, mainly from one country, which is Australia. Out of the total production of coking coal in India, bulk quantity, which was 96%, was produced in Jharkhand, followed by West Bengal, around 2%. And around 80 to 85% of the coking coal is produced by the public sector companies, whereas the balance is produced by the captive miners. Australia is the largest supplier of coking coal to India. However, Australia's share in the India's total coking coal market has been falling, and it has reduced to 67% during March 20 financial year from 85% 5 years ago in FY15. India has been trying to cut its dependence on single destination to source its coking coal needs in order to avoid supply disruptions like we have seen in the past, which had caused huge volatility in the raw material prices for the domestic steel players. This has been benefiting US and Canada as shipments of coking coal from these two countries have rose from 2% in FY15 to 7 to 8% in FY20. India has also increased its imports from Mozambique over the last 2 years. During the current financial year FY21, during April to September, India's coking coal imports fell by a sharp 23% to 21 million tons as compared to the corresponding period last year, mainly due to fall in the crude steel production because of the COVID-induced lockdown and the restrictions. However, coking coal imports have picked up over the last 3 months, July, August, and October and November, with a pickup in the domestic steel production since the unlocking of economy and domestic demand which has been created by the festive season. In September, if we see, the imports have rose again by around 20% YOY to 4.7 million tons. As can be seen from the chart, there can be intermittent volatility in the prices of coking coal, which can be inconsistent with the movement in the steel prices. So at times, steel prices and the coking coal can move in opposite directions, which can cause a lot of pain for the steel players because there can be impact on the profitability margins. One such anomaly is visible currently also, where the coking coal prices are at 4-year lows around $90 to $100 a ton, whereas the steel prices are at multi-year highs at around $650 to $700 per ton in both the domestic and the global markets due to the short supplies and higher restocking demand after the unlocking of the various economies. International spot iron ore averaged $124 in November as against $85 in April. So after the lockdown, the iron ore prices went up from $85 to $125 in November. But the situation has changed dramatically in December, where the prices have shot up from $125 in November to $150 to $170 with a huge volatility in the prices. Iron ore prices last traded at these levels in mid 2011. So we are at around at multi-year high, and it is at a very striking distance to all-time high which we had witnessed in 2008 when the iron ore prices had touched $205 a ton. A weakness in the supply from Brazil, coupled with the relatively stronger demand from China, has made the iron ore prices outperform almost all the global commodities in 2020. Iron ore prices have more than doubled from April. Besides the demand supply dynamics, bullish sentiment created by the geopolitical tensions between Australia and China and the excessive speculation in the futures market can also be a factor for such sharp jump in the prices. China's total iron ore imports in January to November has increased by more than 10% from the same period in 2019 to 1.07 billion tons. On the other hand, coking coal prices have fallen steadily from $150 per ton in March 20 to $107 per ton in November 2020. Prices were down at around $90 per ton in mid-December in Australia. The ongoing trade tensions between Australia and China has led to China sourcing its requirements domestically or from imported coal from North America. As a result of which, the coking coal prices in North America has gone up, whereas the prices of Australian coking coal has gone down. India mainly imports coking coal from Australia, and lower coking coal prices are benefiting the domestic steel players currently in this quarter. Raw material is the largest cost head for the Indian steel players, accounting for around 50 to 60% of their total cost. And therefore, as can be seen in the graph, movement in the raw material prices have a direct impact on the operating margins. If we see a trend in last 8 quarters, operating profit margin has remained low because the industry was going through a cyclical downturn due to US-China trade tensions and slowdown in the domestic economy, resulting in the lower growth in steel consumption. However, if we see, the cycle had started to turn up from March 20 quarter, but COVID outbreak again disrupted the recovery in the steel industry, and there was a sharp fall in the Q1. However, the industry has reported sharp rebound in the margins, benefiting from the improving demand and realizations on the one hand and the lower input cost on the other hand in Q2. This trend we expect that it is expected to continue in the current quarter and in the next quarter. Global iron ore prices, as we mentioned, are expected to remain extremely volatile and at higher levels. In the iron ore industry, any prices above $100 are considered to be high, and currently the prices are at around $150 to $170 per ton. As we mentioned, besides the supply-demand dynamics, the evolving geopolitical tensions between China and Australia, there are fears in the market that China may impose restrictions on the import of iron ore from Australia, as they have put ban on the import of coking coal from Australia on the similar lines. And on that basis, there is a lot of speculation in the market to increase the prices. Similarly, steel prices are also expected to remain high as the impact of higher iron ore prices is expected to keep the steel prices also high. The current shipments which are being made from Brazil and Australia are likely to reach these steel producing countries like China over the next 2 months, and therefore it is unlikely that steel prices will fall very sharply in the near future. Lower coking coal prices are providing much needed respite to the Indian players, which are struggling with some shortage of availability of iron ore and also the higher prices of iron ore. Notably, the largest iron ore producing company in the country, NMDC, has increased the iron ore prices from around $2,000 rupees per ton to more than 5,000 rupees per ton over the last 4 or 5 months. With China relying more on the domestic sourcing and muted demand from Korea, Japan, coking coal prices have remained soft and are likely to remain so unless these dynamics change and there is a constraint from the supply from Australia, which has historically played the major spoil sport in the coking coal industry. In a nutshell, we can say that higher iron ore and softer coking coal prices are expected to lead to a sharp improvement in the operating margins of the large integrated steel players. Secondary players are expected to incur higher raw material cost, but enjoy limited benefits from higher steel prices due to their limited diversity and substantial gap which is there now in the market in terms of the prices for the large players and the smaller players. Now I would request Mr. Sharma to share his views on the industry, iron ore, coking coal and the steel. Mr. Sharma.
I think Ajay, we have lost connection with Mr. Sharma. Is offline now. So probably we'll open the floor for Q&A and try to see whether some questions are coming in.
Sure, sure.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr.
Welcome.
Sharma.
Yes, please.
Welcome back,
Sorry,
Mr. Sharma.
there was some technical problem, so I'm okay now. Yes, please carry on.
Yes, sir. We were.
And thank you, Rashmi. I seen your presentation. So, what is next, please?
Yes, sir. We would like to have your views on the industry, sir. Iron ore, coking coal, and steel industry, sir. In brief, sir.
Everything has been explained by both of you very extensively as far as iron ore is concerned and coking coal is concerned. But of course, I have some views which I'd like to put in front of everybody. The situation of iron ore alone is not there, and we have to see that pig iron prices worldwide, scrap prices worldwide, HBI prices have increased very sharply. The production of scrap has not reduced, but they found an opportunity how to encash the situation because iron ore prices are going up. So the scrap prices are going up. We can always correlate iron ore with pellets or pellets with iron ore or pig iron with iron ore. But scrap is a different industry, and the price movement in scrap is purely on optimism and opportunity which the scrap dealers they have enjoyed during last 1.5 to 2 months time. So today the scrap is at about a level of $480 to $500 per ton, which is abnormally high. I don't say that is the peak has not come or peak has already come, because in 2012 it was at the same level of $500. But pig iron and DRI, HBI, they are at its peak in last so many decades. Now the situation is one side the industry, steel industry is getting some additional margins. The other side, the customer is getting into a trouble of high prices paying, and basically the affordability is an issue. We expect that the prices should remain stable or maybe with minor correction in times to come. We are not expecting and we do not wish that the prices should go further. So from here, if the prices they go up further, then projects will be suffered, and the buying from an individual will be reduced. Similarly, there will be overall impact on vehicles, automobiles, and housing projects, also for shipbuilding, also for other products which are based on steel plates or rebars or construction bar or wire rods. So today, what is happening in India and in the world, all of a sudden we are seeing that there is a huge demand coming from Europe. Earlier we were failed to understand as to why the demand from Europe is coming. Last week we sold hot rolled coil to Europe at $800 a ton, which I remember these kind of prices were never there even in 2012 or 2007. Then pig iron we sold to America at a price of $490 CFR to East Coast. So this is again a very high price, what I feel. But the customers are paying the prices, and the steel industry is also very bullish. So what do I feel from now onwards? The prices should remain stable or maybe marginally up, but it will not come down. Maybe 2%, 2.5% increase can be witnessed in the month of Jan and Feb. But after the Chinese New Year, we expect that the prices may soften. The government of China, they have stopped few of the plants which are in the vicinity of metro cities or major cities to avoid pollution or smoke formation during winter. I think all of them will restart after the Chinese New Year. Once they restart, then overall semis demand to China will be reduced. And then we may find a respite in terms of bringing down the prices. Secondly, always there are opportunities during the troubled time. Now the iron ore mines in Africa, they are becoming more and more lucrative. Whenever this situation comes, when iron ore goes beyond $160 a ton, then few of the countries, they always become very active. One is Bolivia. They have more than 20 billion ton of iron ore reserves. The another is Mauritania. They have also 18 billion tons. Monrovia and Congo. These are the countries, and Namibia. These are the countries, those who will be opening their mines now. Similarly, Tanzania, Uganda, and Sudan, the North Sudan, they will be opening their mines now. Up till now, these mines were not feasible, but at $160, $170, these mines are definitely workable because their overall cost will be around $80, and with transportation and ocean freight, these will be very, very much workable. And most of these mines, except for Bolivia, are with magnetite iron ore, which is a good iron ore, basically for the pellet feed. The another area, coking coal, we have already covered. Coking coal prices are, yes, you are right, is all-time low, I would say, in last one decade. And these prices will remain at this level till the March or maybe April. There is no scope of any increase in coking coal prices because most of the steel mills, they have done the future booking. And like we have covered up to May. Similarly, JSW must have covered up to May or June. Tata Steel, Steel Authority of India, they must have covered themselves because this was a good opportunity for the steel mills to buy in future, and everybody has done it. So overall demand versus the consumption and the supplies, basically. So that will always be under threat, and there are so many challenges what coking coal supplier will be facing till May 2021. So in nutshell, the situation will be where the iron ore prices will remain stable. One. Number two, the coking coal prices will remain moderately stable. And the cost of production with these two components, iron ore and coking coal, will be at the same level what it is today till April next year, that is 21. So we are expecting that there will be stability in the prices unless some highly unreasonable demand comes from China. China is spending a lot of money in infrastructures, basically, to come out from the COVID impact. The economy was suffering in last year. In December, they were at a level about only 70, 75 million ton. But today they are more than 100 million ton per month. Similarly, in India, we have witnessed the growth in steel industry by 3% in the last quarter. This quarter, I think, ending today after tomorrow, the growth will be witnessed about 5 to 6% by the Indian industry. And last quarter of this year, that is Jan, Feb, March, we will be witnessing at least 10% growth on year-on-year basis when we compare on QOQ last quarter of last year versus the last quarter of year 21. Demand, yes, as rightly said by Mrs. Sitaraman, one is pent-up demand and the other is the money being spent by Government of India on infrastructures. A company like ours will get little additional benefits like the new railway lines and new metro lines are being declared by Government of India. Today also Honorable Prime Minister has inaugurated a mega project, and I think in times to come the demand of rails, demand of angle irons for the Power Grid Corporation of India, and demand of shipbuilding plates will definitely increase. So we, being a steel making company for infrastructure industries, will get advantage over others. As far as other steel industry in India is concerned, they will also be in a very healthy position, because last quarter is going to give good numbers for everybody. Now, the demand apart from Europe, another demand what we are witnessing nowadays is from the Southeast Asian countries like Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Taiwan. Predominantly, these countries were being fed by China. Since China is not exporting much to these countries or to the rest of the world also, so they are now banking upon the new pastures, and the new pasture is only three. One is Iran, the other is Ukraine and Russia, and the third is India. Iran is under sanctions, so many countries they don't buy from Iran, and because of the weather conditions and the port conditions in Novaris port and Uzhni port on Black Sea, the dispatches or exports to the Western world or to America from Russia and from Ukraine is very, very less. So then the next destination left for the world is India. And this is the reason nowadays we are getting a lot of demand from the western part of the world, especially from Europe and also from America, to supply them steel. I think most of us have booked orders till February. So we will be completing the next quarter's order book in next 10 days or 15 days time, and the prices will remain stable or maybe a little up, and the business is going to be good. The another area of concern, Government of India was thinking how to control the prices. So what we requested to Government of India that we have to find a mechanism as to how to control the iron ore prices, especially if NMDC has to take a lead and OMC has to take a lead. So if the price they keep their prices stable, then Indian steel prices will remain stable. Today, NMDC prices is a indirect benchmark for the Indian industry. If NMDC increases the price, then all merchant miners, private miners, they also increase their price. And finally, there is a formula which people have devised, though Rashmi told it is 1.6 or 1.65 times of the iron ore, but the formula, exact formula, what the industry has divided is 1.85 times. If NMDC increases 1,000 rupees a ton, then steel prices will go up by 1,800 or 1,850 rupees a ton. And for few of the value-added grades may go even up to 2,000 rupees a ton. If NMDC remains stable, then the prices in India will remain stable. If NMDC reduces the price tomorrow by 1,000 rupees, for sure, 1,800 to 2,000 rupees prices will get corrected automatically. So what we are requesting to Government of India to increase the production from NMDC and do not increase the prices. Similarly, increase the production from OMC and do not increase the prices so that affordability does not come into question. And the third is we have also requested Government of India to allow the private miners, those who are having a EC limit of X quantity, to allow them at least 125% of X, that is 25% extra over and above EC, to mine in this particular financial year, because only 3 months are left. So if they, the Government of India allows them to produce more, at least by 25%, than the EC limit available, that may give some respite to the downstream industry in India, which is struggling for the iron ore. Then another area which is now under a very hot talks, that whether Government of India will impose duty on export of pellets. Today, unfortunately, the prices imbalance is existing in the world. In India, the pellet prices are 12,400 rupees a ton. If you export to China, it is only 10,800 rupees a ton. So the net yield in terms of price is better in India than exporting. So the pellet exporters are not willing to export pellets to rest of the world. So that is a different situation. The another area is government is also in a fix whether to impose duty. If they impose duty, then government-run company KIOCL, who is the largest exporter of iron pellets, will also be under big stress, because they are not developed their base within the country, and whatever they produce, 3.5 million ton or 4 million ton, they export. So the government is also in a fix, I think. So what is to be done? Way forward is as following. Number one, this is a good time for the steel industry. One. Number two, the prices will remain stable in my view in Q4, or maybe little moderate correction upward wherever it is required, maybe in some grades or sizes. Number three, the coking coal prices will remain stable till May, and unless there is some force measure like heavy rains or flooding or something like that. Then next point is the downstream industry like cold rolling, galvanizing, color coating. This will also remain stable in the Q4. As far as overall profitability is concerned, steel industry as a whole will definitely wipe off their old losses which they have been carrying for the last so many years, because the time was very bad, and the balance sheets will be healthy. And the people, those who are lost in first quarter, that is during COVID, that will be recovered in Q3 and Q4. So that's all from my side. In case of any question, you may ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the sharing the outlook. Sir, we have certain questions. We have Costa Majumadar, who is asking about the outlook on the coking coal prices, which we have already covered. We have one more question from Mr. Parnav. He is asking, do we see any government intervention on the steel prices and iron ore export? So iron ore export, I think you have already covered in terms of your view on whether government intervention will be there or not. Mr. Sharma, we would like to hear from you on the government intervention on the steel prices, because there is a lot of demand from various industry bodies, including a few of the ministers. So what is your view on that?
You see, as a citizen of this country, I would like that we should not export the iron ore. And as JSP also, we would like that the iron ore and pellets should not be exported. The first right on iron ore and pellets, that is available to the Indian industry. But unfortunately, what is happening, the iron ore of low grade, which is having less than 58% Fe contents, in this country, we do not have the beneficiation plants. We cannot use it. People are not putting beneficiation plant. This is a big problem. So government of India must come out with the incentive scheme that people must try to beneficiate the low grade iron ore, like China is doing. when China is taking 54, 55, 58% iron ore with Fe contents of 58% and below, we can also utilize. When the technology is already developed in the world and Chinese are enjoying that technology, we can also do that. Alternatively, China is also doing a blending system. They buy high-grade iron ore from Australia, and they buy low-grade iron ore from India, and then they blend it. So 64 and 58, they are blended together to reach to somewhere about 60, 61% for a sinter feed or for a pellet feed. But unfortunately, the Indian industry is not doing that, which is quite possible today. If you buy metal from NMDC with 64, 65% Fe contents, and we buy about 56 to 58% of iron ore, low-grade iron ore from Odisha or from anywhere in the country, and we blend it together, this can be a good move. But unfortunately, this is not happening. Now, coming back on the government intervention, you see, government is concerned. Honorable Minister, Mr. Gadkari, he also showed his concern that the steel prices are going up and the projects are becoming unviable. I appreciate his statement. Whatever he said, that is correct. The steel prices are going up, but it is not that only the steel mills are making the profits. The making profit is not a bad thing, but the contracts which were signed in 2019 or end of 2019, those contracts were having certain prices. They considered that certain prices of steel will be there, and there was no price variation clause. So this is the reason the projects are going into losses. Like in our company also, we have some customers where we have supplied, we have committed business with them at a fixed price, come what may. So we are delivering them today also. We are delivering at the same price at what we signed the agreement in the month of June or in the month of end of May. But the question here is, if Government of India feels they can always revise the project cost based on such kind of situation, because ultimately Government of India is also getting benefit in terms of collecting 18% GST on a higher price. Earlier the prices used to be 36, 34, 35,000 rupees a ton. Today the prices are more than 50,000 rupees a ton. So GST collection is also high. So it is basically, it is in a closed pocket system. You are getting revenues from one source and you have to spend from the other source. So I think the right way is not to intervene, because what are the basis for the intervention? One cannot say that you don't make too much of profit or higher profit, or the company should not make this much of profit. I mean, there's no benchmarking can be done. Yes, holding, cartelization, discussing something, damaging the interest of the country, yes, that they can always intervene. But they cannot intervene, and they should not intervene, and they should not impose any condition that this will be the maximum retail price MRP. So these are not those items where you can fix up the MRP, whereas your own government or state-run company, NMDC and OMC, they are free to increase. They are free to increase prices. So they cannot restrict, I think, the Indian industry. Secondly, there are two large institutions of Government of India. One is Steel Authority of India, and the other is Rashtriya Ispat Nigam Limited. They both are increasing the prices. So government will have to demonstrate or set the example first by reducing the price from Steel Authority of India, from RINL, and by reducing the prices of iron ore from NMDC and from OMC. So I don't think that there will be any intervention from government side, but of course there is a caution to entire industry that we should not go unreasonably high. And this is what, as a good citizen of the country, we are, and a good company, we are concerned about it, and we are seeing that we do not take it as an opportunity, but of course the cost increase will have to be passed on.
Sure, sir. Sir, we have time to take one more question. Mr. Parag is asking, sir, will we see reduction in the coking coal imports due to Atmanirbhar Bharat or ramp up of production by Coal India, or due to development of any new technology in terms of steel production, where Indian coal can be used in higher quantities to replace the higher cost of import bills on the coking coal.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very valid question and very apt question, I would say, in today's scenario. First of all, the coking coal import in India will continue as it is without any change, at least for next 2.5 years time. Then point number two, what is going to happen after 2.5 years? That I will come back a little later. Your next question was the Coal India's production. Today, Coal India, they are producing about 750 million ton coal per year. And we import in this country, barring this COVID year, if you leave this COVID year, because first 4 or 5 months were very bad for the power industry and also for the steel industry. But otherwise, last year we imported about 245 million ton of coal. This 245 million ton of coal is having the calorific value of 5,500 to 7,000 kilocal. Whereas in India, we are producing ordinary coal, the high ash, at 3,500 kilocal average. So 3,500 kilocal versus 6,000 or maybe 6,500 kilocal as average on imported coal. That means it is not 245 million ton. The import is in equivalent calorific value, it is about 500 million ton or say 480 million ton. So today the country's requirement is 750 million ton plus 500 million ton, that is 1.25 billion ton. Government of India with Coal India, they want to reach to this 1.25 billion ton in the year 2025 as per their plan. So this shortage of coal will always be there in next couple of years, unless Coal India reaches to a level of 2 billion ton production, which is possible and also easier. So, but unfortunately, they are not reaching to that level even in next 5 years' time. So the answer is that to open as fast as possible private mining or the merchant mining of coal, so that we can meet out this delta or the deficit of 500 million ton, which we are importing today in terms of calorific value. We are importing 240 or 245 million ton, but it is equivalent to Indian coal of 500 million ton, because Indian coal is having ash 50 to 51%. So that's why we feel that that market is existing for the private miners and the merchant miners in the coal. And there's a big scope, because Coal India is sitting on reserve of more than 150 billion ton of coal in the country. Out of 350 billion ton of coal available in country, except for 20 billion ton which is government is going to privatize, balance all 300 billion ton is government of India, and Coal India and subsidiaries, they are the sole owner today. So they should try to take out 2 billion coal, 2.5 billion tons of coals, and they should meet out the demand. This will, the point number 3, your question was, what is the substitute available or the new technology available as to how to utilize the Indian coal as against of imported coking coal? Yes, the technology is already available. We already demonstrated in JSPL that we have put up a plant which is based on Indian high ash coal. We are converting coal into syngas, and syngas is used to produce DRI, and DRI goes to electric arc furnace, and we produce steel through electric arc furnace route. This plant is working now in Angul, and it is the first plant in the world which has been put on coal gasification to DRI and DRI to electric arc furnace in a chain. We call it CDE. That is, CDE means C for coal gasification, D stands for DRI, E stands for electric arc furnace. So this combination of CDE is meeting out a requirement. We are making about 225 ton per hour today at the DRI, and we are very cost effective, making coal to syngas and syngas to DRI and DRI to electric arc furnace steel. Now the second point here is government will have to incentivize the coal gasification units as we have. Honorable Prime Minister, he spoke to a correspondent in America in last year September, and he himself was advocating that India needs to convert its direct burning of coal into a coal gasification. And this is the reason that in the last budget, government has taken a plan to gasify at least 100 million ton coal in the year 21-22. So for that, they are already working. 2 plants are already ordered. One is Ramagundam, the other is Talcher, to produce coal to fertilizer. So similarly, coal to fertilizer, coal to methanol, coal to ethanol, coal to hydrogen, coal to olefins, coal to plastics, coal to power, and coal to diesel, coal to petrol, coal to benzene. All these technologies are available. As you are seeing that China is the world leader in consuming coal. They import say 600 million ton of coal, but they consume 2.8 billion ton of coal. So where this 2.8 billion ton is being consumed? In power sector as well as in coal to liquids, coal to gas, coal to fertilizer, coal to olefins, coal to different chemicals, which are very precious chemicals. So India will have to go to China way if India wants to utilize its coal, which is buried under the ground for millions of years. And after 2050, coal will not be required, not only in India, anywhere in the world, because alternate energy sources are coming very fast. Hydrogen is going to develop very fast. The sea energy will change the entire world because we will be converting the sea water, sea energy into hydrogen, and that will change the entire world. This is not too far away. I think this is next 10 to 15 years time. We will be witnessing as to how we can be dependent, how we can lose our dependence on coal and can reach to some other unconventional or non-conventional source of energies. The another area is, if you see 10 years before, we used to have the solar power at 11 rupees or 12 rupees per unit. Today it is 1 rupee 60 paisa, 1 rupee 70 paisa. So whatever the sea energy, sea conversion will take place, maybe initially we'll find about 10 to 12 rupees per unit, but over a period of time, the technology is fully developed, and along with that, the desalination is also done. Then I think that will come down to again 2 rupees or maybe 2 rupees 50 paisa in 2035 or something like that. That is what the calculations are. If we do that, this means the dependence on coal will be eliminated fully. Indian Prime Minister in Paris Protocol, he has already declared that we will reduce CO2 footprint by 30% by 2030. So how to reduce it? Unless we convert coal into coal gasification, unless we do the coal bed methane, unless we do the underground coal gasification, we cannot reach to these kind of figures. Last point here is, Indian government is offering now a scrap policy, which is likely to come maybe in next a week or 10 days time, or maximum by the end of this financial year. So if the scrap policy is implemented, that means the scrap will be processed in the various part of the country. Like 30% of the scrap will be available in the northern India, 35% will be available in the western India, 20% will be available in down south in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, and balance will be in the rest of the country. Now with 30 and 35% means 65% will be in the two sectors, that is north and west. When this 65% scrap will be processed there, and we are expecting at least 50 million ton of scrap. It's not a small quantity, it's a huge quantity, which is half, or I would say 40% of today's steel production. So this 50 million ton scrap processing, where will we melt it? That is the biggest question. Who will melt it? Who will put up an electric arc furnace in a state where the electricity cost is 12 rupees per unit, 14 rupees per unit, 15 rupees per unit? Today, the blast furnaces, when we compare with blast furnace with the electric arc furnaces route, electric arc furnaces should not have electricity cost more than 1,800 rupees a ton if they want to compete with the blast furnace route. 1,800 rupees means If today the electric arc furnace will consume about somewhere 550 to 600 kilowatt hour per ton. In 600 kilowatt gross figure, if the power tariff is 12 rupees, then it's 7,200 rupees. That means we are off by 5,400 rupees per ton. So with 5,400 rupees per ton, with any standard, country cannot afford that costly steel. So the solution is what? Solution is again Coal India. What is that? Today Coal India is selling its coal at 50 to 75 paisa per megacal. And the best coal they sell even at 1.26 rupees per megacal. This coal production cost is only 15 paisa per megacal. So they have to sell, and they must sell this coal in the interest of nation at a price of 30 to 35 paisa per megacal. If they sell at 30 to 35 paisa per megacal, then pan-India basis, the power can be done, power can be delivered at a price of 4 rupees per unit. And this is where we have been requesting to Government of India and our Honorable Prime Minister, please devise a policy, one India, one tariff policy. Ek Bharat, ek tariff. This is what we are working now. If this is done, then the country can change. With 63 million MSMEs in this country, they are struggling with 14 rupees, 15 rupees per kilowatt of power. Tamil Nadu, it goes as high as 17 rupees. And there are so many anomalies. They break up their prices in such a way that you don't get to know that what exactly the per unit price is. But if you divide the total bill, monthly bill, divided by total number of units, you will find that the prices are going up to 18 rupees, 20 rupees. Whereas today in Jindal power, we are producing power, we are supplying to the grid through the energy exchange, and we are selling on an average 2 rupees 60 paisa, and still we are making money. So this means it is possible to supply to the entire nation the power at a 4 rupees per kilowatt hour. The day the country comes to one tariff, one Bharat policy, which we have been talking, debating in each and every forum. If Honorable Prime Minister, he gives a very cool thought on this, then this will be a real reform in the country. If you see China, there are only two tariffs. One is 4 cents, the other is 4.25 cents. And that's all. America, there are only two tariffs. France, only one tariff. Germany, one tariff. Italy, one tariff. Japan, one tariff. In this country, we have 32 tariffs. Each state has different tariff, and few of the states are having two tariffs. And because the privatization and all, distribution channels are different. So 32 tariffs are to be brought down to one tariff. Ek Bharat, ek electricity tariff. The moment we have one Bharat, one India, one electricity tariff, then only this scrap policy will be successful. Otherwise, it won't be successful. Hope I answered your question. If anything else, I am ready.
No, thank you, sir. I think we have covered most of the questions.
Yeah.
I think we have covered most of the questions which have come in some way or the other. So now I am handing it over to Mridul for the closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. That was the last question taken up for the day due to the time limitations. Thank you, Rashmi and Milind, sir. And thank you to our guest speaker, Mr. V.R. Sharma, Managing Director at Jindal Steel Power Limited. So it was a privilege to have you in our panel and hear your analysis and insights. And thanks again to all the participants for taking a time out and being a part of this Care Ratings webinar. For any further questions and any left queries which has been left unanswered, we'll try to reply by email across to you. Goodbye and thank you for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Ji. Thank you, Dhaka Ji. Thank you.